Welcome back to a very special edition of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. This is Bizzle, and we're going to do something a little bit different for the last episode of the season.
Woohoo!
In this episode, what we're going to do is we are going to interview the hosts, G-Rex and Dirty Skittles, ask them a few questions about the podcast, about life, just about things in general, and sort of flip the script and get into their heads a little bit.
Do this.
Yeah. So kicking it off, I want to start with the, a very broad question each of you individually to answer, which is, what made you want to do a podcast?
Do you want to go first, G-Rex?
Yeah, I'll go first. So like we stated in our first episode, this all came after a really bad mental breakdown for myself. And I found that laughter helps my depression. And Dirty Skittles and we just can like bounce off of each other and laugh about the stupidest shit. But it's also stuff that like would help other people kind of get through their own shit that they're going through. And it's been very healing for me.
And it's been working successfully. Does it carry on beyond? So I know we have a really fun time in the recording process. Do you find that throughout the week, it's like picking you up?
Oh, yeah, definitely picks me up. And when I hear from people that actually are listening to the podcast, it picks them up too. It's 30 minutes of like just stupidity or even a really good topic, but it gets you laughing and, get your mind to stop for that 30 minutes. And for me, it's super healing.
For some interesting feedback, somebody pinged me on Facebook that I've known a long time, either yesterday or the day before, and they actually told me they listen and they were like, they just love it, and they were really excited we're doing it. So that was kind of nice because, me being behind the scenes, the fact that they were able to like figure it out and then like reach out to me and tell me that was actually really nice because it was like a, out of the blue, right? It wasn't prompted. So yeah. What about you, Dirty Skittles?
So I would say I never thought I would be recording a podcast ever. Like G-Rex said, I know that you're pretty open about your mental struggle during that time, but I think we were both pretty much struggling, and having a friend that you can chat with and just be silly with and kind of vent about your day, but not take it too far and just kind of be fun together. It helped me, and I remember I'll never forget it. During that phone call we had that day, we were talking about squirrels, and I literally was like, we should have a podcast, but I said it as a joke, and you were like, yes. That it was almost like you had been waiting for like the invite to like, we should do this, and an idea turned into reality, and a joke became where we are today.
Now we get a whole season of like really good episodes too.
And now it's become, it's like the one thing that I'm starting to do and starting to realize is I'm doing for me. And it's awesome that it's helping other people and that other people are hearing it. So yeah, I'm having a good time.
Yes, me too. It's super therapeutic.
Excellent. I love those answers. All right, next, we'll start with you this time, Dirty Skittles, and then go to you, G-Rex. So what was your favorite moment from any of the episodes? So when you reflect back on the 9 or 10 episodes that we've done so far, what instantly comes to mind?
The very first thing that comes to mind is more for a sentimental value, is having Crazy 8. Like, I began to think about it more deeply, like, where I was like, wow, here's this person I've known my whole life that is really cool, and I get to listen to this forever.
So let me follow up before we go over to you, G-Rex, but I think we talked about the fact that's your dad,
yes,
right?
That is my dad.
Yeah. And there's always an interesting dynamic, I assume, at least I can speak for myself, when you talk to your parents, right? There's that like sort of power structure, and like, you grew up with them and they were, they're your parents. So was it at all different because you were perhaps speaking to them more as like two adults talking versus like talk about that. Just
Yeah,
what was
that's
it like?
exactly what it was like. It's like seeing your parent as a human being. I know that sounds weird, but it's like seeing them as an individual and not your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And also really getting a lot of reward out of the topic that they're talking about. I was able to listen to it more because I wasn't looking at him like he was my dad. You know, I mean, growing up with him when I got in trouble, like that was pretty much the conversations I would have. It was super calm, crazy 8 and super rambunctious, rebellious teen. You know, I didn't really want to hear what he had to say. But now as an adult, seeing him as an individual, I'm very open to hear the things that he has to say.
Awesome. So G-Rex, favorite moment, any episode?
It would have been episode number 2 when we were talking about my retirement and just all the crazy stuff that's happened in the last 15 years. But the very funny thing about that is that Dirty Skittles seems to reel me in a little bit. She is the calm to my crazy. She's almost like the mom side of the conversation, trying to like reel me in. And then my second favorite is when we did the bonus episode and we were talking about all the animal oddities. And when Dirty Skittles got chased by the ducks, I immediately, like the next day, I like popped a little meme in a chat, and it was a little girl getting chased by ducks.
Yeah,
and she was not happy, but it made me laugh.
Can we give a sneak peek to upcoming merch? We're making this happen. There will be a shirt with a duck and bread. And there will be a shirt with a squirrel.
And nuts.
Just want to say that.
Do you remember, we could cut this, but do you remember, what was that sunscreen where it had like the girl running and like something was
salty,
like,
Copper Tone.
Yeah, Copper Tone. That's what it was. You should maybe make a riff off of that.
Yeah.
The duck
but it's
just
a duck,
grabbing you.
and I'm grabbing the loaf of bread. That's perfect.
Yeah. All right. So G-Rex, you actually, so I'm going to take these out of order because you brought something up that I think I want to expound upon a little bit. But so now we've done 10 episodes. This is the 10th. So we're still, I would say, fairly new to the podcasting thing. But what would you say? And then I'll get to you, Dirty Skills. But between episode 1 and episode 10, how do you think it's grown? And that could be, technically, like we have much better mics now, even in that short period, or the topics, or what kind of growth have you seen?
Well, number one, we all have better mics, right? We have a lot better technology than we had in episode 1. We're also a little bit more structured. We have a better plan now of like how we want to go about our episodes and what we want to talk about. And the other thing is, we're asking better questions, right? So, like in the first 2 or 3 episodes, we're like, just rambling on. But now we like have good context, right? And people get excited. They're getting up early on Tuesday mornings just to listen to us. Two people that know absolutely nothing. We're not experts on anything. We're not actors. We're not actresses. We're not famous by any means, but people want to get up and listen to us.
Do you think it helps, like on the previous episode, do you think it helps sometimes coming from a place where you're not actually an expert and having someone on that has a particular topic they want to talk about and you're not an expert, so you're coming from a place of true interest or inquisitiveness?
Yes, that helps a lot because I'm learning, right? Like I learned all about like ADHD, and I've learned about bad bosses and good mental health tips. I go back to that episode at least once a week and listen to it because it's information that I need to kind of just help me get through the week, especially since I have, I'm going to be retired very soon.
I'm going to change the question just slightly for you, Dirty Skittles. What, from episode 1 to 10, not specifically what's changed, but how do you feel like you've grown as far as the episodes and being one of the hosts?
Well, I think one of the first, I think it might have been episode 3 or 4, I had realized, listening to it again, that I hadn't really been actively listening as the conversation was happening. So it was almost like when I listened to it again, it was like I was hearing parts of the conversation for the first time. And so in terms of growth, it's something that I'm focusing more on in the moment to pay attention to that moment and what people are sharing. Like I think with when it was just G-Rex and I talking to each other, it's easier for me because I either knew the story or knew what we were going to talk about. But when you have a guest, you don't necessarily know everything that they're going to say. So growth wise, that's a goal of mine, is to be more focused on what they're saying so that I can keep the flow going. So I mean, that's something that I've noticed is different now.
I believe in the last episode, Baseman kind of was talking about being present and that kind of thing. Is it in that same area?
Yeah, for sure. It's like making sure to be a part of that conversation as it's happening and not thinking of what am I going to ask next, or like how am I going to steer the conversation to this topic or whatever. So probably
a good life skill nonetheless. Like,
yeah, I was hesitant to share that because there are many times where my husband's trying to tell me something. I'm like, I already know.
So, like, one other question I have for you, Dirty Skittles, is like, how do you feel now about putting your vulnerabilities out on the airwaves?
She's cutting deep because she knows the inside cuts that are, that our listeners don't quite know. But I mean, this is actually a really good moment to bring it up. So my entire life, without getting too deep, I've been very cautious as to whom I let see me, like the inside of me and who I am and my beliefs, my thoughts and stuff. So being now a co-host of a podcast, it's the complete different side of the coin. Like I've flipped that coin. Like I'm not only just vulnerable with my close friends, but I'm being vulnerable on the airwaves for people to listen and either judge and like or dislike. And it's something that I've never been comfortable with ever in my life. So in the beginning of folks actually listening to the podcast, when I would be approached like, hey, I heard your podcast, or this is usually how the conversation would go. They were like, wait, it's you, isn't it? You're Dirty Skittles. And I would get so embarrassed because I'm like, it's that I was stepping outside of that comfort zone of knowing who I would allow in to now not knowing who's listening. But I'm getting better with it, and I'm actually really excited for season 2 because of it.
That's great. In fact, that actually brings up the next question. So I'll start with you. What do you want to do different in the next season?
There's so many thoughts and ideas that we have now, kind of going back to what G-Rex said in the beginning. The structure is improving, and I don't want to necessarily give away all of the things that are coming up, but there are certain themes that I think will carry out throughout each episode that I'm really excited for. I'm also really excited for like little things like having merch or like posting more to Instagram. Now that I'm okay being vulnerable and showing a little bit about me, there are things that tie into every episode that I wish people could see because it would resonate more on a personal level. So sharing a little bit more on social media, structure will continue on, themes, merch. We have really good guests lined up that like I can't wait to record with. They have really good stories or a lot of topics that I'm really looking forward to talking about. So, yeah.
What about you, G-Rex? What are you, what are you planning, or what do we want to plan to do different next season?
Well, the fact that I'm going to have a whole lot more time to, do planning and things like that, because I'm not going to have a 9-to-5 job. All our guests, our merchandise. I do want to do a couple of giveaways.
Sweet.
Things that, post something out on social media, like first person who answers, they get a shirt or a mug or something like that. Delving into some like different kinds of topics that affect our mental health, self-love, self-care, because those are two huge things, things that I ignored when I had my mental breakdown, and things that I think that we need to, make sure people are doing on a pretty regular basis. Sharing a lot about like what's happening with my journey also, because by that time I'll have been retired about 6 or 8 weeks. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to like all the different structured conversations and unstructured, right? Because a lot of what we talk about, like our questions just come out of the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know we mentioned merch now a couple times. So I really love the logo. So maybe it'd be a good time to give a shout out. Maybe not by name because of the podcast, but
we have an amazing friend who her talents are endless. I swear to you, because anytime I've ever gone to her for like, hey, can you help me design this thing? She blows it out of the water. So yeah, shout out to our good friend. We're not going to say you by name. You know who you are if you're listening to this. Thank you so much for helping us with our logo, the colors. I mean, we gave her nothing. We gave her nothing but a name of a podcast and maybe an idea. And she knocked it out of the water.
She did. And everybody loves our logo. When I went to the Podfest convention, everybody was like, I love your logo. I love your name. And, you know, I beam with pride, you know, because our good friend, like she took this idea out of nothing and came up with this amazing logo. And so I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's great. When I saw it, I was blown away. So switching gears just a little bit, it's more of a deeper question, but how do you go about adding humor to topics that are, let's call it, otherwise serious?
I'll start. I think for me, if I can't laugh, I will cry. And so I would do anything in the world to not break completely down in that respect. So if I can find, even if it's dark humor, if there's any way that I could just laugh in that moment of stress, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, and for me, laughter is healing for me. I think that is 99% of why I'm on the other side of depression now and can deal with things a little bit better. One thing I do want to make sure is that we never have a topic that will trigger somebody when they leave our podcast. Truly, you know, we want people to laugh. Laughter is healing. It's a universal language. And, you know, hindsight is 2020. So if we can't laugh about some shit that happened, you know, 5 months ago or 10 years ago, you know, it's a learning thing for us too. So learning and laughing, and being able to give people good resources of how to maybe get past whatever they're going through, because we've already been there. Yeah,
absolutely. Kind of want to follow up a little bit on that and then also make a hard right turn. So I'm curious, like, how do you balance, you know, being vulnerable, sharing these sort of deep internal pieces of yourselves, while at the same time, you know, a lot of people, you know, we use fake names, but at the same time, I think a lot of people know, or at least a few people know who we are specifically. So I'm curious, how do you balance sharing those pieces of yourselves that perhaps you wouldn't normally share, while at the same time maintaining a professional, like, reputation, I guess?
Okay. Well, for me, you know, I have no problem sharing my journey. The reason I shared my journey is because I didn't want anybody to feel as alone as I did on Christmas Day. It was terrifying for me. And not only was it terrifying for me, but it was terrifying for my friends, right? Because nobody knew how depressed I was. And sharing that story out to social media, to my friends, to my coworkers, to my family, it allowed them to have an insight into me of what's going on, right? And they don't feel so alone. I've had hundreds of people reach out to me and thank me because now they're getting the help that they need. And they also said that the podcast gives them that 30 minutes to, like, get out of their head. It raises their serotonin level. They're getting good information out of it. And I want to normalize how we talk about mental health, because for my generation, you know, we've been taught to just shove that down as far as you can and go on about your day. But, you know, come Christmas Day, like, I didn't have any place else for that to go. I will say that being on this side of depression is much better. Like I said, thank God my wife was there. Thank God 988 picked up the phone, and thank God for, you know, dirty Skittles and all my friends, because you guys all propped me up when I couldn't prop myself up. So I think it's really important that we talk about these topics and get it out in the open. And as far as my professional life goes, more and more companies are addressing mental health and realizing that, we all are human, and that we're not robots. So I think it's huge.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, just as a personal take, that it seems like each generation gets a little bit better at this, right? Because you just mentioned, just shove it down, don't talk about it. And then I'm sort of in the oldest edge of millennial, and we kind of had, I would say, a mix of that with a slight mix that a couple topics were okay to kind of have in your life. And then now, I think, as you mentioned, normalizing, it seems like that's becoming more normalized, right? Like, I'm hoping that our son there's not stigma to it, right? And so,
right.
Dirty Skills, what about you? Because you're balancing, right? I mean, you mentioned it in a previous answer, you're balancing professional life mixed with, sharing things that are, you maybe perhaps would have normally shared.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that pretty similar to what G-Rex said. If it's something that I think can be of help to somebody else, I'm okay sharing it because it's a helpful topic to discuss. I don't know that I'm completely comfortable being as vulnerable as G-Rex is. I think she's very brave, and I admire you for that, for being able to just lay it out that way. Maybe I would get there. I think there are a lot of topics that I would be interested in hearing others speak about that maybe do resonate close to home. But I also have to remember that, my family listens to the podcast. And so some of that, I'm okay sharing my story, but I'm not okay sharing anybody else's story. So that's part of my balance. Is this helpful to talk about? Is this helpful to share? Is it going to hurt anybody?
We're going to take a pause.
Rosie's barking up a storm. We got to let her out the door.
1 second. Let me go handle this.
Man, you got me a little emotional there with my answer.
I know. I was like, ugh. It's weird because like some of these questions, like I don't expect to get emotional, but as you're talking about, because you're being honest, you're being raw, you're being vulnerable. This is the shit I'm talking about. This is what I'm saying, like with therapy. Oh, he's excited about the next question.
Oh my God.
I am. I think, okay. So this one's definitely gonna be a little bit of a deep cut for some of our listeners, and definitely for the three of us. So, for those who don't know, we all worked together at the same organization, a million years ago, and we all did this thing called the HBDI. And more or less, I'm gonna quickly give you a synopsis that a lot of people who listen will be really mad about because it's not a great synopsis. But effectively, you do a questionnaire, and it really assesses your personality. It's backed by science and kind of gives you an orientation on how you naturally tend to approach life, right? It's not that you can't approach things in different ways, and I'll explain each of the colors in a second, but it's just sort of your natural state, like your default state. And then there's also a version of you when you get stressed and how you approach things when you're stressed by default. There's 4 colors, and you are assigned a value, and the higher the value, the more you tend towards that particular thing. So red would be sort of an emotional response. Yellow is a very creative response, out of the box thinking. Blue is a more like a more technical response. And then green would be more of a pragmatic and organized kind of response. So for example, my HBDI was very much yellow, creative, and blue. So I was technical and creative, very limited on the emotional side, and almost negative on the organization side. So I'm curious, now that I've kind of explained what HBDI is, terribly probably, where each of you landed on the HBDI, and how do you think that's impacted both work, life, love, podcast, which I'm going to get a tattoo of.
What are you getting a tattoo of?
Work, life, love, podcast.
Oh. So for me, I'm high yellow. But when I'm stressed out, I am high red and high blue. Forget the organization part of that. Because if you saw my room or my office, it's complete chaos. But it plays a lot. That yellow plays a lot into my personal life and into my work life. I do a lot of out of the box thinking. But when I'm really stressed out, I get super emotional and then I get like super focused.
Does the yellow go away when you get stressed?
For the most part, yeah. Because my emotions kick in and then I just focus on that, like on the technical response of what I need to get out. Awesome. I think that helped me in my for sure in my career. Sometimes not so much in my personal life because my wife doesn't want to see that technical part of me. She would like to see more of the emotional part of me. But I try and keep my emotions in check. It's hard though because as a Leo, we are emotional beings, and don't ever piss me off because I will hold on to that for life.
All right, what about you, Dirty Skittles?
I'm a square. So I'm equal in red, blue, yellow, and green. When I'm stressed, I'm still pretty much a square, but my green is higher. So, I mean, personal life, when I took this test and I read the results, it made complete sense because where I struggle the most is quick decisions because I don't just go off of any color. I am thinking of all 4 quadrants. So in order to make a fast choice or a fast decision, it's very hard for me. At some point, I'm giving into one color more than the other, and that I struggle with that because one of my biggest triggers is when things are or are not fair. So if I'm going to make a quick emotional response on something, it will bug me for a while because I haven't thought of all the colors through.
And not to be a sponsor for HBDI, but how is this, you're interviewing guests and talking with them about, fairly deep topics. Has this played a part into how you approach your questions and the way, I know naturally, right? It's your natural state, but are you thinking about like how you approach the person in different ways?
I'll answer this one first and then I'll toss it over to you, G-Rex. So it does for me because I'm always thinking about everything. I will shy away from certain questions or topics because A, I don't know what kind of trigger it's going to cause in the person we're actually interviewing, and B, we have listeners, so it's hard to know what people are okay opening up or diving into. And so like there's popular topics that we've thought about possibly talking about, but I will shut down because I know, I don't ever want to put something out there for somebody to listen that they're going to ingest and then be troubled by. Mm-hmm. So that will that it always impacts what we're talking about here.
What about you, G-Rex?
Yeah, same for me. The yellow in me is always asking questions, right? And so I'm always looking for like the appropriate question. And then my red comes in, and because I want to make sure I'm not going to trigger that person or get a bad emotional response from them. But yeah, it's a lot of yellow for me. I'm super creative. I like to see all sides of a person. So
yeah, by the number of texts that you send us with ideas,
I'm sorry.
I can see the yellow.
We need it though. I love it.
Need it. Oh, we need it. It's a really good thing. All right, let's go to a little bit more lighthearted topic. So, what does a morning routine look like for each of you?
Why are you laughing?
Because you guys are going to die what my morning routine is.
I can't wait to hear it.
So, I've worked remote for the last 3 years, right? And so my morning routine is I get out of bed, I go down the stairs, I feed the cats, I come to work. I don't change my clothes. I don't do anything. Okay, you're lucky if I do my hair. I have brushed my teeth though because I can't. New morning routine. I don't know what it is. Ask me in a couple of weeks. But that's my morning routine. And then on the weekends, I rarely get up before 10:30. Oh wait, and my wife does make me breakfast, every day that I'm working.
That's nice.
You better tip her. I'm just kidding.
What about you, Jerry Skittles?
My morning routine, the start time depends on when our little nugget wakes me up. So that could be anywhere between 5 to 6:30 ish. Once I'm awake, the very first thing I have to do is brush my teeth and clean my ears. I cannot start my day if I haven't brushed my teeth or cleaned my ears. I don't know why. It just bugs me. I need it to happen. Why are you giving me that look?
Because I know it's true.
And then everybody who knows me knows that I'm a caffeine fiend. So the very first thing I do is I start a cup of coffee, and then I'm ready to, oh yeah, dude, you know. And then I'm ready to make my son his breakfast. He has his breakfast. I drink coffee. I make another cup of coffee. He finishes his breakfast. I get him dressed for school, do his hair. He's out the door, and then I make another cup of coffee, and then I sit down at my work desk, and that's where work starts. So I have, same as you, I'm not getting dressed because I'm in my pajamas all the time, which is why I oftentimes don't share my camera.
What would you say is different than you expected?
Yeah, people listen. I did not think anybody was going to listen. That, and like G-Rex said earlier, we can see the times of day people are listening, and the fact that they'll listen either on their way to work or while they're getting ready. I don't know, like I think it's so heartwarming, you know what I mean? But yeah,
it's anonymous, by the way. It's not, we don't see
oh yeah, we don't know your name
and where they are.
Right.
Like,
we just see activity,
like number of people at a certain time, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What about you, G-Rex?
For me too, is the fact that people are actually listening to us. We came into this and we thought, we'll just do a couple episodes and see how it goes. But in towards the end of March, we had 230 downloads in one day. Okay, people are really listening to us, but that scared me, right? Because I didn't think that, we had that kind of an impact. So
yeah, and G-Rex will usually send me a message like trigger warning, like don't look at the picture, and it'll be how many people have downloaded a specific episode. So
yeah, by the way, some of these questions are listener questions, but this was the one that I thought was the funniest listener question, which is, how do we make dirty Skittles clean?
Oh my gosh. I could give an answer, and you can edit it out if it's inappropriate.
I mean, it's clearly, we're not going to make you clean if you're going to have to edit it out. Is it aggressive editing? Is that
probably? Can I tell you what went through my mind immediately, and then feel free to edit it out if this is too vulgar. But I was going to say what will make dirty Skittles clean is okay, let me give a different answer. Our producer is absolutely not. You have a job and a child to think about here. What would make dirty Skittles clean? Dude, if they're asking that question, that's the answer they wanted, right?
Yeah, that's the answer they wanted. Yeah. G-Rex, any feedback, commentary? Just
hey. You broke me. We could power wash you.
Or a nice bubble bath.
But you might like that, so I don't know.
Yeah, let me give a different answer. Okay. A nice bubble bath, a glass of champagne, and Harry Styles playing in the background. Lights are dimmed. Just leave me alone in there.
The thing is, you've been to a Harry Styles concert.
No, I haven't.
Oh no, what was the other one? It was
Shawn Mendes.
You were about 25 years older than the next oldest person at the concert.
Okay, but
other
Shawn
than the parents
Mendes,
taking their kids.
I just like their lyrics. I'm a big lyric person. Like the lyrics, it's not for creepy vibes. It's I want to hear the lyrics and the vibe of the song.
I would hope it's not for creepy vibes.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I have to say that now.
So I have a serious question, and then we'll wrap up on a lighthearted note. So what would you each say is your biggest regret, or something you would do different if you could rewind time?
I know this is going to sound cliche. I don't have regrets because I've always been a firm believer that even if I've made a mistake, Like, I have no problem owning up to a mistake. And maybe it's a bit of justification, but in that moment in time, I made a decision based on what I thought was best. So even if it's not right or if it fails or flops, I know that it came from a good place. So when I think of like a regret, like I'm immediately thinking of something I wish I never did, but I don't have those. And I've made some really, really crazy life choices. I don't think I would be as emotionally developed or as good of a person had I not made those choices. So no regrets here.
I think my biggest regret is not opening up enough when I needed to, and keeping those feelings inside myself. Because when it finally did boil over, it scared a lot of people. It scared myself. It scared my friends, my family. So my biggest regret is not opening up sooner.
Yeah, but you're doing it now, and you're in a much better place. So,
and look at how you're doing
Yeah.
it with a podcast that helps people. Like, so even that, is that really a regret?
It was because several people were hurt by the fact that I couldn't open up because I couldn't find my voice or my footing. You know, hindsight is 2020. Now I'm talking about it and I'm helping people and I'm helping myself. And to me, this is my form of self-love and self-care.
yeah, it comes full circle, I think, back to when you were talking about like normalizing these things, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I have two last questions. Both of them should be pretty fun, and then we can wrap up. So, second last question. If you had to put out maybe a 1 or 2, 5 year, somewhere in that range, your goal with the podcast, what is your goal? Is it a number of listeners, a specific topic, a guest of a particular, like, you know, maybe you want a celebrity or something? What would be, what's the Mount Everest over the next couple years for the podcast?
I have two.
Yeah, go for it. Two mountains.
So the first one would be to do a live session.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And then the second one would be to have somebody like, I don't know, like Rosie O'Donnell or somebody in the mental health field, you know, somebody famous.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I have one more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe take the show on the road.
That would be really fun.
Yeah, that's huge. I was thinking it would be really cool to have a video one, like one where people can see us, like where we're together recording a podcast, having a good time. The other one, like when I think about somebody famous, ooh, that's like there's so many people that I would want to talk to, but like, oh, this is a rough one because like when I find interest, now I'm feeling vulnerable. I'm like, am I gonna say this name? If people are gonna be like, who is that? Why does this chick want to listen to this person talk? But one of my favorite dynamic duos that they have a podcast is Trixie Mattel. Do you know who Trixie Mattel is?
Yep.
They're two RuPaul Drag Race contestants, and their podcast is really, really cool. And so it would be nice to like work with somebody that's already established in that.
I think G-Rex and I can work on that. We could probably, I mean, put some feelers out there.
They're my favorite because they're funny. And like, it's kind of like us. Like we're not, I mean, I'm not comparing us to them. It's just that when somebody can tell a story or even just talk about random things, but just have like sarcastic, funny humor, I'm like all for it. So.
And you know, it all goes back to laughter. You know, laughter is healing. So.
Perfect. All right. And then the last question, what are you guys listening to? Other podcasts? Are you reading books? What are you guys up to? So I'd love to hear that.
So I listen to like Pod Diva. I'm listening to the new Rosie podcast. I listen to Alive, Talk Shit with P, and then the Pants podcast. It's Kate Monig and Leisha Haley from the original L Word.
Oh, sweet.
They're funny. They're like two friends that just hanging out, talking to each other. Kind of like what we do. They answer guest questions. What am I listening to as far as music? I listen to Top 40. I listen to everybody from ABBA to ZZ Top. And then as far as books go, I love murder mystery. Any kind of murder mystery. So
good.
That's how I relax.
Awesome. Yeah, those podcasts all sound really good.
The podcasts that I normally will pop on if I'm not listening to ours for edits is The Bald and the Beautiful or I Mom So Hard.
I heard about that one. And those are the two ladies that actually went on to
Tour, yeah.
to do like live shows and things like that.
Yeah, there were a bunch of podcasts I used to listen to, but I feel like they're not recording anymore because I just literally had to open up my podcast thing, and I was like, "Oh, this one doesn't record anymore."
So, what do you read
What do I read? News
besides children's books?
Yeah, no, I don't. No, I don't read. I can tell you that I fell down the adult book on Audible. Have you ever heard those?
No.
Well, I blame it on TikTok. There are some spicy books that have audiobooks on Audible, and that was pretty hilarious.
Oh, like a romance novel?
Oh, yeah. It's so funny.
Like someone on a horse with their shirt.
Yeah.
just
Like,
billowing?
I listened to it not because, like, oh, yeah. Like, no. I listened to it because it's hilarious to hear that somebody is in a studio recording on a mic, voicing, like, this rough guy. That's always, like, a rough dude. And I'm like, come on. And it cracks me up. Like, it's just so funny, bro. If you ever need just like something to laugh at, pop that on.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you both for an incredible season. We've had some awesome guests. It's been a ton of fun doing this, and I cannot wait for season 2.
Woo, me too.
Thank you,
y'all there.
Bizzle. You've been an amazing producer. So,
Oh, thank you.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.